So can you give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you do?
Sure. My name's Harrison. I go by the name HarriBoi on Instagram. And I've recently been doing a channel called Tokyo Interviews, where I interview all kinds of people, mostly Japanese, but also a lot of tourists and foreigners that are living here. And I ask them, cultural questions, kind of entertaining questions, or just introducing themselves to the world. And that's kind of the basically the online activity I've been doing recently while I'm in Japan.
What has been the most interesting video you've done so far?
So I think there might be a difference between the one that went most viral versus what I think is most interesting, actually. Because a lot of things that I think are interesting cultural aspects don't go viral, but one that did go viral was I asked somebody the question, do you think prostitution is cheating?
Right, I've seen like those kind of videos, and a lot of Japanese women and men said no, right?
So I've actually asked this question a lot, and I've gotten quite a mixed bag of responses.
Right.
So as you would think, it's not like one size fits all. A lot of people have different opinions about it, but you would be surprised. So with this specific question, there are a lot of women who say they actually don't consider it cheating. Mm-hmm. And if they were married or in a relationship, they'd rather, like, if their husband was going to see a different girl, they'd rather they pay for a professional instead of like a random girl who might bring drama back into the relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah, it actually is like, okay, that's pretty logical. And I've heard this view a few times. So it is something that is in the Japanese cultural psyche that I think that's a very uncommon way of thinking in the West or other countries. At least in America, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, because people in the West totally not okay with it.
Yeah.
When I spoke to my foreigner friends about it and we were watching the videos, the female said they have no idea why the Japanese girls have no respect for themselves.
Yeah, oh man.
They say such things, right.
The comment section is crazy. Like, these girls from the West and all the Christians are like, oh, they need God. Like, this is terrible.
Right. It seems as though like cheating is kind of normal here, actually.
So, yeah, I mean, that's another, I do ask about cheating a lot. And I'm not deciding the answers, right? So it just so happens almost every single girl has a cheating story, or they think that Japanese guys cheat a lot. Especially the foreign girls and even Japanese girls will say this. I would say keep in mind there's some selection bias for my interviews because I am on the street in areas with lots of drunken people. Probably in like slower areas around the countryside, you'll probably get people who are more normal and might not be giving these answers. But this is the pattern I found. And I can just tell you from my experience living in Japan, I've known, so many guys who maybe have just like slept with random girls, and they'll say like, oh yeah, I have to get back to my boyfriend, or like my boyfriend's calling me, or
yeah, I heard that.
Or just drop the fact they have a boyfriend, like at some point, either before or after. So like that's coming from the other end of like.
And that's strange. And they wouldn't even lie or try to hide it because they could just simply not say anything, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to say it, but they do. It's like they're pretty honest. Yeah.
Yeah. It's because it's kind of normalized, perhaps. So.
And I heard like the condom culture is very high. Like a lot of girls demand it. I don't know, like for you personally, but from what I heard, a lot of girls like really into that rather than just not using it. I don't know, but that's what I heard.
I would say it's completely the opposite.
Oh, really? They don't?
Japanese guys like do not use condoms.
I see.
And
that'll be very interesting for everyone to know that.
Let's hear your take, everyone else. Like honestly, and a lot of girls don't really ask for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just say I'm not talking from my experience. Let's just say that. But
right. Okay. So, I heard in Japan, white guys are especially popular in contrast to like brown guys, Indian guys, Spanish, whatever. What do you think about that?
I mean, I've heard this too. I don't think the effect is as pronounced as people think it is. I will say, like, there is like some girls that will just come up to you and just say like, you have nice eyes, nice skin. or like
or-
straight out like I like Americans or white guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it happens. Usually, not like those are usually like the somewhat westernized girls or just girls that like foreign culture or something.
Okay, so,
So-
your experience, how often do you get approached by women?
Me getting approached by a girl, that
Like walking in Shibuya or something, or Shinjuku?
really just doesn't happen.
Oh, it doesn't. I see. Okay.
Like there's cases that are super outliers,
Mhm,
especially I think in Japan. Yeah, I'm saying from my experience of like if I happen to talk to a girl, then she'll say something like this,
Oh, okay, okay.
So like Shibuya is different. It's a friendly area where like people are like having fun or people might know me, so I get approached a lot. But I could walk around society for days and I can guarantee you no one will ever approach me. So
All right, so there's dating apps and there's like getting girls in real life. How do you usually get girls if you would like to date?
So people might know about Bumble. It's like a dating app used by like foreigners and girls that like foreigners.
Right.
I think every gaijin that comes here makes a Bumble account at some point.
Right.
Like, I used to use it to meet girls. I don't use it anymore.
So what do you do now?
I meet way too many people in real life to even consider using apps. I just mean in general. I'm just meeting so many people and I have so many engagements that like I don't want to flood my time with app usage.
Right, because a bit too much, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I prefer meeting people on the street because you meet them and you directly have a chance to have an open conversation. Especially I meet a lot of people in Shibuya who there's like instant connection with somebody. Then you can chill, have a drink and chill and talk for 30 minutes. Know if you like each other. So I think that's my recommended way to meet people, like guys or girls, not even just for dating, just a way to meet people.
So do you debunk the whole white is king, white is right? Because in Thailand, Vietnam, it's like commonly known, even in the comments in YouTube, people say, "Oh, it's white. If you need a girlfriend, just be white."
Dude, it's weird for me to comment on this because I am white, so like...
yeah, for you wouldn't like...
And here's the thing, I feel like I also have a lot of other good characteristics, like I feel like I'm charismatic and I speak fluent Japanese. It's very hard to... So like, if a girl likes me, is it because I'm white or because I have all these other good characteristics?
Right, so it's hard to tell.
It's hard for me to make some kind of judgment about these scenarios, unless they explicitly say it, that like, oh, I like white guys, which does happen. Like, then it's easy to tell, so...
Okay, so a flat answer, in your opinion, other than you, do you think that theory is accurate, or how much % accurate do you think that theory is?
Yeah, it gives you an advantage for sure.
For sure. All right.
No,
all
like
right.
it's definitely there. I just don't want people who like aren't white to feel bad or like think it's a crutch or something. There's so many people out there for everybody and things you could do to make yourself attractive. Like, but it does exist as an advantage.
Okay. So what I want to ask you now is, what's your goal? Like, why you made the channel in the first place? So those two questions.
Yeah. So it's not so specific. I just really wanted to make content of some kind. Actually, I've always wanted to make content, and I've worked on and off with like YouTubers for like a long time ago.
Yeah, okay.
But I never really had my own channel and my own idea. And I just been in Shibuya and Shinjuku talking to people on the street, very interesting people for such a long time. And I had some friends who I knew were doing YouTube videos, like interviews, and I was like, you know what, I'm already here. I could already speak to these people. Let me just get it on camera. And that was kind of how it started. So right now, like, as an intermediate goal, so I'm in the range of have like 30,000 followers on Instagram, which is enough to like say I have kind of a following.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So I want to collaborate more with all kinds of different like influencers in different parts of society, and like and kind of take it from there. As far as like monetization, I don't have any plans for getting sponsored or anything. So I feel like I have a difficult brand to sponsor because I do interview a lot of crazy people that brands wouldn't want to be associated with.
Yeah.
So it's really just about enjoying the process of creating content and entertaining people right now.
Is there a specific influencer you're targeting right now, or someone special that you would like to meet or interview?
Man, I don't really even know that many. I don't even know the whole influencer ecosystem. I just know a couple of the other interviewers who are around Shibuya that I work with sometimes.
Right.
But there's, even better, like the domestic Japanese influencer scene. Like, I actually have a few connections in there, and I want to collaborate more with them. So I feel like there's not so much crossover between like these foreign-facing influencers where we subtitle things in English, versus the whole Japanese like TikTok and Instagram scene is all, it's not subtitled in English or anything, only for Japanese people. So I want to kind of, bridge that gap.
Are you only on YouTube, or which platforms are you on?
No, I post everything on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and even Twitter.
Oh, okay, so many. All right.
Twitter doesn't get any views. Like, this content's just not for Twitter.
I see. I see.
Instagram seems to be my main platform where it gets the most engagement and people actually comment on the videos.
Right.
TikTok, I've had a couple of videos that went very viral, and that got me like 20,000 followers.
Nice.
But my average video doesn't seem to get so much engagement there.
So when you do the videos, is there like specific topics you go for? How do you come up with the topics? You have a team, or you just write it on a piece of paper or something?
Yeah, it's interesting. So like when I started out, I was just thinking of, a bunch of topics. This might get engagement, this might be controversial, things that I think people want to know about Japanese culture. And I started just making a list, and I kind of have them in the back of my head at all times. And I've been doing this for a while, but now my style is really like, when I meet someone, I just want to know what this person is about and what unique information or perspective can they give me.
Right.
Which is why a lot of my interviews seem really random, or like, it's like, where would I come up with these topics? It's really based off what that person can offer me. Like, because, not everyone can answer every question.
So do you specifically go for like male or female?
I would say it's like 70% female.
Because it appeals more to the audience.
Yeah, I guess so. Honestly, the general demographic of people interested in Japan is probably
girls.
It's probably mostly men, so they're more interested in seeing girls. True. And I'm just more used to just talking to girls on the street also, I guess. But that's the thing, people will like hate on me for like, oh, you're just using this to talk to girls. Like, no, dude, I talk to everybody. I talk to guys on the street all the time, and I interview plenty of guys. But if a girl is attractive or has really good fashion, it's easy. They'll probably get some views.
Have you ever hooked up with a girl you did a video with?
I don't think so.
You don't think
and if
so?
I did, those records would be classified.
All right, you can't say it. Right. True. You can't say that. Sorry.
I honestly don't really follow up with it. I can say I have but I am friends with a lot of people I've interviewed. We can start there. So especially some of my viral videos. One of my most viral video was actually, she's like half black, half Japanese girl, and she talked about like beauty standards in Japan. And we're friends. I invited her to my birthday party. She came to hang out. So
well, that's good.
Yeah.
But definitely, you have your own circle already, but having additional friends might be kind of a nuisance to your life. So how do you manage your friends currently, and when you get like new friends?
So it's interesting. I'll start with like, I had my group of friends from before I started content, right? Kind of like 5 or 6 like gaijins. We all speak Japanese, and we all just go out and drink together. And then and we would hang out in Shibuya and stuff. And when I started making content, like, I guess they were actually pretty supportive. So now they kind of, whenever I'm out, we like combine hanging out with them helping me like get people to film content. And it's kind of fun to all cooperate. Like, they're doing it for me, so I appreciate that. And here's the thing, I actually always like combining different circles. So I do have all these new friends and these old friends I have. And I think my birthday was a couple of weeks ago in April. So I invited. Thank you. Yeah, I invited a ton of people, my old friends, like content creators that I recently met, some people that I'd interviewed, and other random people. So I'm always down to combine new and old friends.
All right. So the next question I want to ask you is how is your way of life living here in compared to where you're from? I don't think you said where you're from.
Yeah, I'm from. Oh yeah. So to introduce myself, I'm from New York City actually.
New York, pretty similar to Tokyo, right?
It's a city. Cities are all kind of similar. I would say I was raised in New York City for about 10 years, and I went to the suburbs, so kind of a slower pace, and still in New York for after that. So Here's the thing. The biggest difference is that when I was in New York City, I was actually just going to graduate school and studying pretty seriously. I was living, at home with my parents, so my life was just completely different. It's very hard to judge Tokyo versus New York as far as cities are concerned. Like, as far as my life as an adult there, because when I came to Tokyo, on my own, next to all these nightlife areas, you can go out drinking and meet new people. So my life totally changed in that respect.
Right.
But I always liked New York, and there's always it's similar, like the melting pot of people that you can vibe with, which is what I like about Shibuya, and I always like that about New York.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of cultural differences in America to Japan.
For sure.
How have you adjusted to that? Or was it even a problem, or not really?
Yeah, I mean, people always ask foreigners that question. For me, I've been speaking Japanese since I was 10 or 11. I started teaching myself.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
I've been fluent, long before I came to Japan, and from the amount of Japanese dramas I've watched, Japanese people I've met and talked to, I knew a lot about the culture and the language. So as far as cultural shocks, just some basic things that wouldn't really say are shocks. But,
so you've taught yourself Japanese?
Yeah.
Was it hard at such a young age?
Yeah, I mean, all languages are hard, especially Japanese is, unrelated to English, so...
Yeah, very different, yeah.
But, I like languages, so I just wanted a challenging language to learn that has, a good culture behind it also, so I ended up going with Japanese.
Right.
And I think it was a great choice, and I enjoyed learning, kanji as well, so I think that's part of it.
So when you were younger, you always knew someday you would end up in Japan?
I guess half of it was a dream of mine to go to Japan in some way, but it wasn't definite. When I went to graduate school, and I actually went to study statistics and data science, which is my job now. But
same as me. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I graduated, I first started looking for jobs, in New York and around America.
Okay.
And I got very close to getting those jobs, but I ended up applying for some a quantitative consulting job that had an office in Tokyo.
Okay.
And I passed a bilingual interview and a skills interview. They really liked me. I was in the middle of interviews with other, American jobs.
Okay.
So yeah, I was like, yeah, let's go. I just took it and ended up in Tokyo.
Where do you live right now?
I live in Ebisu, which is near Shibuya.
Oh, that's a good area to live.
Yeah.
It's connected to everything.
Yeah, very central.
Right. So the editing on your job, doesn't it play an impact? Because I know you're busy already with your job. So how is you balancing your editing life and video life to the job?
Yeah, balance is the right word. So one thing is I work remotely, so no commute time or anything, and I have very free flex schedule.
Right.
So it's kind of I get my tasks done when I get them done. So when I'm out, I have my data science computer here, my editing computer here, my other programming computer to the side, and I just have to schedule my day pretty much, and then I go to the gym also, which always takes more time than it should. So
for your channel, do you actively pursue getting more followers, advertising, pay for advertisements, or that's not something you really do?
When I first started, before I had any viral videos, I didn't really understand how people actually got followers, so I did that a few times. I boosted some reels, and it didn't really do anything. Then once I started getting organic growth, I had that viral video had 8 million views.
8 million. Okay.
Yeah. That was the one where I asked about prostitution and cheating.
Oh, that one. I see.
But it ended up being the answer was very interesting, and it kind of got shared around the world.
Right.
Then I saw, so if people see your reel and it goes viral, they'll just start following you. So I understood you just have to make viral videos and have a consistent theme. And I started making consistent interview similar style videos. So when people see my profile, they're like, oh, okay, I know what to expect if I follow him, right?
So touching on that topic, I have a friend personally. She, for his birthday, rented him a prostitute.
Interesting.
And I was like, what? But apparently to her it was totally okay, and she didn't even have a problem with it because she actually offered him to rent him a prostitute. And you know what? He didn't even retaliate. He took it. So from that conversation, I was like, wow, it's really totally normal here. It's so normal that they don't even like have a big reaction
So you're
towards
saying
it.
the couple is Japanese?
A purely Japanese
Okay.
couple, yeah. And the Japanese lady offered the Japanese guy a prostitute for his birthday, and he accepted it. And they spoke about it as though it was just talking about fruits or whatever. It was like it wasn't even a big deal. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
If I was the guy, I'd be like, this seems like a trap.
it seems like a test, right?
Yeah,
like we're like, are you gonna do it?
Yeah. That still seems a little bit progressive for Japan. I've never heard
Oh,
that one.
you never heard about that
That's
one?
an interesting story.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. But I'm glad to tell you something you heard for the first.
That's a new one.
So, from your friends, what's the most crazy story you've ever heard? If it's okay, if it's not like too personal. If it's too personal, it's okay.
Crazy stories from my friends.
Like what I said, something similar to that. If you're allowed to say, or you could just say something you think you're allowed to say.
Yeah, I mean, my close friends, I feel like all of those records are sealed.
Yeah, okay,
So,
okay.
I'm trying to think
Right, you
outside
can't
the
think about
box.
something that you could make public.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, that's fine.
Just a lot of degenerate things. It's like dude, there's so much degenerate things going on in Tokyo. I feel like I can't isolate one like crazy story. I just realize
Right,
it's the
okay.
volume of degeneracy. that,
I see. Well, how about you sharing what's the most crazy thing you done, or is that also classified? It doesn't have to be sexual. It could be just something like non-sexual.
No, I mean, it's just easier to talk about the crazy people I've interviewed or
I
talked
see.
to and stuff.
Right.
Crazy things that I've done. I mean, I don't know how crazy they are, but I used to spend a lot of time in Roppongi. Which,
okay.
if you're
Yeah.
familiar with this area, it's kind of like a tourist trap that has an all-night nightlife. Even though it's a tourist trap, for some reason, like it still has a vibe, so I like going to it. And there's a lot of like seedy places there
Right.
that I honestly wouldn't recommend anyone go to. I don't know why I went through this phase of going to Roppongi all the time.
Okay, so why would you say it's a tourist trap?
It's a tourist trap because if you go into any of these after hours bars, there's always a bunch of like Southeast Asian or Eastern European hookers sitting at the bar looking for customers.
Really?
And if you are a tourist and you don't know this local culture, you might just think it's, oh, look at this nice lady who's so friendly to me. And she'll probably start asking for money and draining your wallet pretty soon.
And do you think it's a
So-
bad thing for people to use prostitutes in Japan?
Like, from a moral standpoint? or-
Yeah. You're single.
Yeah.
Okay, they're single and there's being in a relationship. Being single, do you think it's okay?
Yeah, I mean, I have no moral judgment about it.
I see. And
you're-
a lot of feminists out there will be like, no, that's not good. You're using women.
I mean, it depends. A lot of these women are professionals. Like if you like pay for them, you're probably helping to like pay for her son's tuition or something.
True.
And I'm saying because I told you I was in these places and I've talked to a lot of these
Yeah.
ladies standing at the bar and they'll just open up like, oh yeah, that's my son. Like going to school, it's expensive. Blah, blah, blah. Like they know what they're doing. So
So since you've been here living, how long?
6 years.
All right. What's your biggest complaint being here these 6 years? I'm sure you've had complaints.
I've actually been the one receiving complaints.
I see, rather than you having complaints. Okay.
Yeah, mostly because, all right, I'm talking about noise complaints pretty much because I've held a lot of house parties in my time.
All right. So you make them.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
actually I'm actually the one generating the complaints. So
Right.
I'm the bad neighbor, actually. So
you need a house where it's like strong walls.
yeah, I actually do have a house with very strong walls now, but you know what the problem is? It's always smokers. They want to smoke outside on the balcony and make a lot of noise outside.
Right.
So that's a warning for house parties. But yeah, as far as complaints I have towards society, Man, from my perspective, there's just so little to complain about. I wouldn't even.
I see. You don't think Japanese people discriminate on foreigners at all?
No, they do. I just don't complain about it.
I see.
I think so. From my perspective, is that like, especially recently, there's a ton of tourists, and there are a lot of like rules about how to conduct yourself in Japan, right?
Yeah.
They're just not upheld in other countries, which is what makes Japan great. But if you have all these tourists coming in who, they probably look like me, white people or from whatever country, they're gonna mess shit up, throw their garbage around, probably, be loud in restaurants when they're not supposed to be.
On the bus or train.
Yeah, like this happens. So Japanese people, like, they'll see this, day in, day out, and probably get kind of fed up with it. So, like, if I've encountered, Japanese person who's just given me, like, a bad attitude, in my opinion, it's just because they've seen so many foreigners that are tourists that are not obeying the rules. Like, it's happened where someone's come to me with a bad attitude about something like, oh, in Japan, we don't do this. But then I'll just speak to them in really polite Japanese, and they'll just be really nice after that. And like, oh, okay, yeah. Because here's the thing. If you're breaking some rule in Japan, I can guarantee you there's way more old Japanese dudes and random Japanese dudes that are breaking these rules all the time.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
True.
So it's really like, if you can demonstrate that you do speak Japanese and respect the society, they're not gonna give you shit.
Do you think foreigners coming to Japan messes the culture up, or do you think Japan is better without foreigners?
I think moderation is good. You don't want it to be overrun with foreigners.
Right.
It's funny, I did recently go to Osaka, and there's this famous bridge, the Namba Bridge, which has the picture of the Running Man.
Yeah.
And, during the daytime, it was 90% foreigners, man. I could not recognize Japan.
Right.
It was crazy. So, yeah, clearly, like, when it's overrun by foreigners, I imagine it does cause some problems for the local people. I mean, for me personally, I love talking to people of all kinds. I like talking to Japanese people and tourists and foreigners that are living here. So, from my perspective, hey, I think it's totally great.
Eventually, because of the population problem, you never know, there might be more foreigners than Japanese there in the future, because Japanese has a population decline right now.
Yeah, I think looking way into the future.
Yeah.
Obviously, the government's worried about the falling birth rate and aging society.
Right.
So I think they are actively pursuing, trying to raise birth rates domestically and encourage tourism and immigration for two reasons. The other reason is also the very weak yen. So they want actual tourists to stimulate the economy, which I don't think it's contributing that much to the economy, but it's part of their, it's all tied up to the same plan. And I think, when this happens, I think in any kind of homogenous ethnic society, when there becomes an over influx of foreigners, there's a backlash from the nationalists, like the domestic nationalists. So, or the right wingers. And I predict we're going to start seeing more of that, of Japanese people who are saying, we need to preserve our culture.
Right.
And I'm saying, because I already, in my comment section, I already see a lot of Japanese people saying racist things, like, towards me and other people. But I think it might become a trend in the years to come.
Yeah, because I think the Japanese women who are okay with being in an interracial relationship, I think those kinds of women tend to forget their own culture. They're less strict against following traditions, from what I've experienced. Like, my international couples, they don't really try to enforce too much like Japanese traditions. So I think as we have more Japanese couples with foreign people, I don't think they're gonna really uphold the tradition. So I think that's why like many Japanese people might be afraid of losing the tradition because of that.
Yeah, that's one way to say it. Like, obviously, I've met a lot of Japanese people, and they study abroad for a year or something, and they get a taste of like foreign American culture. And I think especially for Japanese people, because sometimes the pressure of Japanese society is a lot of how to behave and what traditions to uphold. Once they get a taste of this freedom of like, oh, I can act however I want abroad, like I'm free, it's very hard to come back to Japan and like be very Japanese all of a sudden for a lot of them. I don't think that's really like them sacrificing their own inner Japaneseness. It's just like they just have a different perspective on things. I still think a lot of them, love love Japan even more, maybe so after going abroad.
Right.
So I don't see that as a problem so much, just like an observation.
All right, coming back on the population thing, what do you think, in your opinion, will help the population problem in Japan?
What will help it?
Yeah. Everyone says it's money, but I don't know if it's really money. That's what people say. So what people say and what actually is happening is two different things. So do you agree it's like the economy, the money, or you think just people not having relationships, or they're not interested in having committed relationships? They just want to play around. Like, it could be like many various things.
I do think the trend is actually not unique to Japan. I mean, you can see any of these developed societies. So Korea actually has the lowest birth rates, right? And then Japan, I think even like, Nordic countries, all these places where things are expensive and women are pursuing careers.
Right.
And all these things kind of coincide to set back birth rates. Like the average age women give birth is going higher and higher. I think it just increased like 3 years every decade since a few decades ago. Mm-hmm. So it's not unique to Japan, in my opinion. I think it's just Japan is very low on immigration and is quite nationalist, which might be inhibiting it from increasing the birth rate. The economic situation certainly doesn't help. I mean, I think just talking to my friends, they're saying like, having like feeding yourself, living for yourself is already expensive. Like they're just like, I can't imagine having a family and like a kid. Like that's what people are saying like around me.
Yeah.
So
you think it has nothing to do with them not being interested in marriage, not being interested in having kids? You don't think that has anything to do with it at all? You think people actually want families? It's just expensive.
No, I think there might be a point. I think people are less willing to give up their freedoms. I mean, having kids and a family, that's giving up your freedoms, right? Yeah. And I think, in the past, there was no, like literally not that long ago, no TikTok, no Instagram, no dating apps. And I think people just had less idea of what options they could occupy themselves with. Right. Like, dating, like, sleeping around, or just like other things they could do with their lives. It was kind of like, okay, yeah, just get married and have a family now. And I think people just have so much they can do, and they just don't want to give that up to have a family anymore.
In my opinion and experience, I've seen a lot of 30-year-olds older still looking for kids, still looking for families, still looking for a serious relationship, even 40s and up. And I can't understand, like, why? What are you doing when you were 20s? Like, why didn't you just get in a relationship? Why now? Why at 40? Why at 30? What were you doing? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the age... Are you talking about men or women or both?
Women.
Women. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe this point goes for both genders, though. But the amount of time you can spend just playing around and having fun has just like increased. And
I guess they lose focus or something. Or...
It's a combination. I think there's career and playing around, and then work hard, play hard. So people are kind of focused on both these things. And people have just gotten less traditional in general, and I think that's continued for a longer amount of time than in the past. So you get these people in their 30s and 40s who maybe are finally done with that lifestyle.
I see. Yeah. So for your channel, if in the future you get super popular, like, what are your ambitions?
Man, I would love to just be a cultural ambassador between America and Japan and
really?
other places.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean a cultural ambassador? Like, in what way? Just through your videos?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I want to have be able to give greater exposure to Japanese culture to people abroad, right? And vice versa, and be able to, because I feel like I have a lot of access from just the amount of time I put in meeting people, and you could call it networking, just talking to people on the streets and different types of venues that I think foreigners would just never have access to. I do think I'm in a unique position to connect like multiple worlds.
Okay.
So if I'm able to do this and then maybe expand my reach, hope maybe get on TV, produce my own series professionally or
a
something.
TV show. I see.
Any documentary, TV show, web series, doesn't matter. Just something on a more professional scale, you know.
Okay, you mean like online or like on actually Japanese television?
Hey, whatever form of media accepts me, you know. It's,
Oh, really?
I think obviously
Okay.
television is definitely one goal I have because, you know, I've been
Right.
watching Japanese TV for so long. I know all those personalities.
Right.
And
right.
personally, like, I feel like my strength is just like, I'm very good at Japanese humor and I know like
really?
Japanese gags.
Well, Japanese humor is definitely different from American humor.
Yeah, maybe not so much like the traditional Japanese comedy, but just like the back and forth. It's called like boketsukomi and just gags and stuff. I usually have a pretty good sense of that, so I think it'd be really funny if I was on Japanese TV.
When I see Japanese comedy, they just shout really loud and like bump into stuff. Like comedy you would see back in like the 80s, 60s, right? But our comedy is like stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Using our mind. I'm like, it's different, eh?
Yeah, not like the slapstick, like, not that type of comedy.
Oh yeah, I thought that's what you did.
No, I just mean like humor, just like back and forth talking kind of humor.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I watch it on TV, I'm like, this is like for kids. It's like, I don't think it's funny.
So I literally was just watching. It just came on TV, and I'm like, Japanese comedy is still stuck in like the 1970s. That's how I felt. Like it hasn't evolved.
It hasn't changed, and it's still not changing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in Shibuya, there's like a Tokyo stand-up comedy bar or something. So they have, they have these things, right? But even that quality, it's not so good. I've been there. It's not that good, but they do have it.
But do they have like Japanese stand-up comedians? Like, is there a Jerry?
Oh yeah, no, I've never seen that.
They
Yeah,
don't
that's
have
true. It was only foreigners that day when I went.
Yeah,
Every time you go that bar, that Tokyo bar, it's foreigners.
I think I've heard of this. It's like English Japanese comedy.
It's right next to the station, very close to the station. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm talking about like, 'cause I don't really know the Japanese comedy world. Is there like a Japanese Jerry Seinfeld or you know?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean.
That's why they have manzai, which is the famous two combination. Someone is like the idiot, and some guy makes fun of him.
Yeah.
That's the boketsukomi I'm talking about. So that's kind of Japanese humor.
But that's not what you do.
That's just an element of Japanese like conversation if you're being funny.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to know like Japanese stand-up comedy. I mean, I probably can't do that, but I'm sure somebody could.
So do you like practice or like your comedy or like is there something natural to you?
Yeah, I'm just talking about being comedic in general. Like I don't do routines or anything.
Okay, just like off of the wing.
I'm quite confident in my Japanese one-liners. Sometimes I come up with very good ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying your comedy in Japanese, not English?
I mean, I also think I'm funny in English. Y'all can decide.
Yeah. All right.
So,
yeah. So what's a one-liner you can give us, like something that's?
No, I mean like
something.
it's things that come up naturally in conversation.
I see. That's what you meant.
Yeah, that's what
I see. It's not like pre-planned. Like I'm gonna say this.
Yeah, I don't pre-plan anything. My interviews aren't pre-planned. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
So any comedy you see in my interviews is all off the cuff. So I'm usually pretty proud of those when it happens.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
This was great conversation. Appreciate it.
Oh, before we go, you can tell them the name of your channel, and of course I will tag you in below.
Yeah, I'm HarriBoi on every platform. HarriBoi.
Right.
And my channel, my brand is Tokyo Interviews. So if you're interested in Japanese culture, fun interviews, just follow and subscribe.